In this next series of videos, we'll start discussing key area 1.7, cellular respiration, by looking at the first pathway of respiration, which is glycolysis. Okay. So glycolysis is the metabolic pathway that breaks down glucose into the chemical pyruvate, all taking place within the cytoplasm of the cell. Remember, it is a metabolic pathway, so it's actually 10 individual catalyzed steps that gets you from your starting substrate, the sugar glucose, to your end product, pyruvate. But in terms of the intermediates, the only chemical names you need to know is what you start with, the glucose, and what you end with, the pyruvate. So the whole purpose of cellular respiration is to produce the ATP molecule, all the energy that the cell requires. But in order to make energy, to make ATP, we actually have to invest some in this initial pathway of glycolysis. So to start the breakdown of glucose, we have to invest two ATP molecules because we need the phosphate from the ATP to phosphorylate the glucose, the addition of the phosphate onto that glucose in order to start its breakdown. So this is what's known as the energy investment phase. We're supplying the ATP, we're using that up, and we're beginning to break the glucose down. This is all worthwhile because towards the end of glycolysis, we would refer to that as the energy payoff phase, where we're now producing the ATP molecule. So 4 ATPs are made in total, which gives you a net gain or a profit of ATP. So for every time we break down a glucose molecule, the cell is up to ATP molecules. We'll talk about it in more detail in subsequent videos, but for now, just make note of the NADH, the hydrogen collector. So now that we have the pyruvate, what happens to it? What's its fate? Well, so long as you have aerobic conditions, i.e., oxygen is available, the pyruvate will leave the cytoplasm and enter into the mitochondria, where it can take part in what's known as the link reaction, what links glycolysis to the subsequent stages of respiration. So initially, pyruvate is going to be broken down into an acetyl group or acetate, and that will combine with a coenzyme A. So these two substances together forms acetyl-CoA, and that will be where we pick up in the next pathway of cellular respiration. But for now, that's everything you need to know about glycolysis. So let's try a past paper question. So the diagram represents the glycolysis stage of respiration in a muscle cell. And you're asked, phase 1 is the energy investment stage of glycolysis, while phase 2 is the energy payoff stage of glycolysis. So describe what happens during the energy investment and the energy payoff phases of glycolysis. Pause the video and write down your responses. So let's take a look at the marking scheme for this question. So during the energy investment phase, that's when ATP molecules are broken down or used up. That idea of you're using up or you're providing energy to do the reaction. Or you could be more specific and talk about the phosphorylation, which is the removal of the phosphate from the ATP, which is then added to the glucose, and that breaks it down. Okay. Energy investment, so you're using up the ATP molecule. Then for the energy payoff phase, that's when the ATP is being produced. Okay, you're making a net gain of those ATP molecules. So again, hope this has helped to introduce cellular respiration and make that first stage of glycolysis a little bit easier. If you do have any questions, please just let me know.